can go to their bank and they will be issued with foreign currency. They give the bank the ZIG and they will be issued with foreign currency to go and do their business in South Africa. That is allowed. It's not a problem. I have people from exchange control here and they can confirm that. Now, the issue you mentioned about someone wanting to buy something from someone who does not accept US dollars. Now, I think this is where the first thing I would do is to report that person. Say, why are you not accepting? If you are a pharmacist and you are not accepting ZIG, and yet you can go to the bank with your invoice for foreign payments for all your medicines, and the bank gives you the foreign currency. Now, you have accessed that foreign currency on the willing seller, willing buyer market. You have brought in the medicine, and you are selling it again, and you don't want to accept ZIG. That person needs to lose their license. In fact, those are the people who should be reported to FIU. Then you mentioned the few areas, passport and fuel, which have not yet been liberalized to the extent where you can buy in ZIG. I think I did mention earlier on that 70% of the transactions in this economy are happening in US dollars, and 30% are happening in ZIG. What that means, honorable members, is that if I were to be naughty and say, let me search your pockets, I'll probably find more US dollars than ZIG. So let's not just then say all the ZIG we have should go to fuel. No, all of us are earning ZIG and US dollars in one way or another. And this is how the economy is running until we get to 2030.
Sorry, let's allow. You want a follow-up question? All right, I recognize Honorable Story.
Question is a follow-up to the issues that you raised. And I just wanted to find out, you talk of legitimate request and illegitimate request. And I'm failing to understand on what basis you are making that judgment, given that we are in a multi-currency scenario, and ordinarily citizens must be able to access the currency of their choice. It's a multi-currency situation that we find ourselves in. So if a citizen wants USD, they must be able to get the USD that they want. So I wanted to understand on what basis are you making that judgment to say this is legitimate and this is illegitimate. Is it law, and what law is it?
Thank you.
The thing we want is to go back to the era of fuel queues. If you look at the fuel import bill, how big it is, and then you look at our reserves, and then you also look at the ZIG that is circulating in the economy, you find that for now, it makes sense for us to continue with fuel being in US dollars, because it will just choke the whole system. I'm talking of weekly demand for forex minus fuel is averaging anything between 15 and 20 million USD. If you add fuel, we could now probably be talking of 50 million a week. And when you look at it vis-a-vis all the figures I was giving you, we're not yet there. We're not ready to do that. But having said that, and I have said this before, you will have a situation where, as we get towards the end of March, this is QPD month, fuel stations are selling 100% currently of their fuel in USD. But they are taxpayers. And the minister has said that 50% of their tax must be paid in ZIG. Where are they going to get that ZIG? I can tell you that there are some fuel players who have already started selling bulk fuel in ZIG so that they meet their QPD. So some of these things will sort themselves naturally on their own as we progress towards the year 2030. But let's not do things that will result in us going back to the era of fuel queues. We don't want to do that. So far it's working. Everyone has got US dollars, everyone has got ZIG. let's use the US dollars that we have for those areas where we can buy US dollars. Let's use ZIG where we can buy in ZIG. Then there was the issue of confidence. You are absolutely right. This is what the central bank has been working on since April last year. The introduction of the structured currency ZIG was meant to instill confidence in our own local currency. But confidence cannot come overnight. Confidence, you can't sit in parliament and say, let's legislate confidence.
Sorry, Honorable Chair.
Order, members.
Okay.
Allow the minister, the governor to finish.
I just need a point of clarity since I'm reporting his answer.
Let's wait for him to answer that one. We'll give you time to answer. Ask again.
So confidence is what we have been working on. And how do you achieve confidence? If you have sustained periods of current stability, like we have had, from October up to today, the rate has been more or less stable. It oscillates between 25 point something to 26 point something. The band is quite narrow. From October up until now, the parallel market rate has been going down. All those are confidence indicators. And what you are likely to see now is that people holding ZIG are going to be holding it for longer because they know that it's not going to lose its value. Even on the parallel market, if I had a 40 ZIG in October last year, it was equal to $1. Now, 40 ZIG is now equal to $1.50. So, if I had disposed of my 40 ZIG in October, I would now be saying to myself, I made the wrong decision. And this is how you build confidence. So, as the rate stabilizes and as the parallel market takes a nosedive, you are going to see more and more people having confidence in their local currency. And after that, you even find someone saying, yes, I can sell my fuel in ZIG because I know that this ZIG is money. So our role as the central bank, as I said in my opening remarks, is currency stability. And we think we have achieved that. If we can maintain this, and we also make sure that our reserves are going up so that they are enough to cover our currency, we will not have any problem going forward. Then what is a legitimate transaction? It's very simple. Ordinarily, foreign currency is supposed to be for us to pay for things that we are procuring outside the borders of this country. If you have a child at university in South Africa, you want to pay, get your invoice, go to the bank, it will be paid. If you have something that you want to import, you want to pay, go to the bank, get your invoice, go to the bank, and it will be paid. It is my wish that for domestic transactions, as far as we can, let us pay each other in ZIG, in local currency. Because you can't say that you have milked a cow that was born here, that grazes Zimbabwean grass, but you want to sell that milk in US dollars. Why? Since we are in a multi-currency environment, you would only sell in US dollars because the person who is buying has said that is all I've got. So, my wish, my plea, is that for all our domestic transactions, we should accept our local currency. But if the buyer then says, I'm sorry, I don't have ZIG, you can accept US dollars. Let's use foreign currency for the purpose for which it is supposed to be used, which is paying for imports or services that we are importing in this country. That is the purpose of foreign currency. You go to South Africa, you go into a shop, you want to buy using US dollars, they will say, go to a bureau to change your money and come and buy.
Because South Africa is not in multi-currency.
So here we are in a multi-currency, madam, honorable madam. We would want, for domestic transactions, let us use our own currency. The multi-currency bit comes in when I then walk into a shop and I say, I want to buy but I don't have ZIG, the shop says, okay, you can give me the rand, the puller, or the US dollar that we've got. But by and large, let us use our own currency for domestic transactions. That is my point.
Thank you very much. You can proceed with the other questions.
Then I was still on the, of them made some very strategic mistakes. From April, after we introduced ZIG, manufacturers were asking them to say, I am invoicing you. Do you want to be invoiced in ZIG? Do you want to be invoiced in US dollars? Some of them say to the manufacturer, invoice me in US dollars, and then at the time of payment, I'll decide which currency to pay you in. And the manufacturers were happy with that. But then, after September, you know, if you look at what happened in September, if you had been invoiced $1 million US dollars in April, and now we are having to pay that bill in September, in April you would have had to pay 13 million ZIG. In September you are now paying 26 million ZIG. You see, so there was that dislocation that happened. But if they had said to the manufacturer, invoice me in ZIG, maybe the manufacturer would have said, to cater for exchange fluctuations, I'll pay me 14 million ZIG at the time you pay me. They would not have had that dislocation. So these are strategic decisions that people were making. This is why you find that it is not every retailer who is struggling. You go to some of the retailers now, they are fully stocked, but they were operating in the same environment. So why is it that some are struggling and some are not, and yet the environment is the same? So I'm saying it is because of some of the strategic decisions we make in business. Some were no longer trading groceries, but were now trading currency. So they wanted to sell goods in US dollars and then go and change those US dollars on the power market and then go and buy. But then when the rate moves against you, you find that all the profits that you think you had made are gone. So when we look at the problems that are bedeviling in the retail sector, let's go specifically into each retailer and understand. Some of them were telling them, look into the way your management are doing things. Look at your expense structure. They were not doing that. But only recently, they only realized, why did they go back to the old management that was there and removed those that are currently there? Because they realized that the old management that was there understands the retail market. In the retail sector, you survive on supplier credit. If you don't have a good relationship with your supplier, you will not survive in the retail sector. But I'm glad that those that were struggling have seen the light and they have gone back to basics like we have done in the secretary. So let's go back to basics. They have now gone and hired those managers who were there who understand the business. Then,
Follow-up question.
6% of the economy is formal, 64% is informal. And seemingly it appears like the stability that we are talking about is on the 36%. And I wanted to find out the extent to which RBZ takes into account the 64%, because it appears like the 64% is the greater part of who we are, and we seem to be majoring in the minor. So if you can also enlighten us on that one, to what extent you consider the 64% when you're talking about stability?
yeah, well, thank you. First of all, Honorable, if there is a buyer from Bank A who wants to buy Forex at 50, and that bank sells that Forex at 50. We are not part of that as the central bank. Banks are free to buy and sell foreign capital as they wish. It's called willing seller, willing buyer. Now, the market is reacting to a number of things in the economy. First of all, what are the inflation projections? What do people think? If someone thinks that the rate will go to 100, and that is the thinking within the market, the rate will go to 100, whether the central bank likes it or not. The central bank is also one of the players in the willing seller, willing buyer market. We sell Forex, and we also buy Forex. I will give you an example. Last week, the director of financial markets is here. A bank came to us and said they were selling $5 million US. Yes, $5 million US. And Ms. Matiza there said, yes, I can buy it, but my buying rate is 25. Right? The bank said, you can keep your rate. I'm going to find somewhere else where I'm going to sell it. And he said, it's willing seller, willing buy. They went out there and came back the next day. Said, sorry, we want to accept your rate of payment.
They came back with a 6 million instead of the 5 million. Exactly the same rate.
So that's what we mean by willing seller, willing buyer. They wanted to force him to say, accept 30. He said, no, I'm buying at 25. So that is exactly what happened in September. So you may not believe it, but there is no, I think last week on Friday, I was on TV and saying, this so-called third hand of the Reserve Bank in the willing seller, willing buyer market is not true.
So, if you can be quick to go through some of the other responses, because
The last follow-up.
we want to go through all.
Whether that's true or not, but let's assume that it is true. The bulk of the transactions that are happening, especially from the monetary perspective, to say how much money is being traded on a daily basis and so forth. These are recorded transactions. They are happening within the formal banking sector. The other market is operating on a cash basis, but they buy their goods from the same manufacturers that we are talking about. And so, to some extent, they are also part of the formal economy. But we are counting on the transactions that would then influence, for example, the exchange rate that we are seeing. Because we have transactions that go through RTGS, whether they are US dollars or whether they are ZIG. We then measure those. We are seeing 70% of the transactions happening in US dollars and 30% happening in ZIG. And those are the figures that then inform what we are talking about. But if you ask me how deep the informal market is, the answer, quite frankly, is I don't know. Because some of these markets are operating even at night. You have night markets and they are trading. And normally they are trading in cash, US dollars. But we are measuring what we are seeing in the formal economy. Now, maybe if I can, I know we have time constraints. Step. When you open a bank account, the bank must give you a POS machine. Then, that POS machine that you have been given by a bank, if you take it and you put it in a drawer and it's not being used, banks can tell. Banks can actually tell you how many transactions each POS machine that they have issued is done in a day, in a month, in a week, without even visiting that POS machine, because they can see it on their screens. The POS is reporting to their system, real time. So if there is an inactive POS machine, banks will report FIU to say there is a POS machine that is not functional. And will then ensure that FIU visit that business to understand what is going on. We are going to be increasing the number of FIU officers in the regions in the past, FIU tended to be concentrated in Harare, but you are going to be seeing regional compliance inspectors in the regions, so that we enforce this measure. So that's how we are going to enforce the measure. Then the next one was the issue that if a licensing authority does not issues a license to someone who does not have a POS machine, what are we going to do? Obviously, again, as part of FIU surveillance, and also, you'll be surprised that people are now reporting to us to say, I went into that business and I wanted to swipe and they don't have a POS machine. Then we will get FIU to go to that business, and if they are operating with a license that was issued by a licensing authority, but they don't have a POS machine, we go to that, FIU can fine that licensing authority because they did not follow the instruction. They issued a license without ensuring that the person is conceived. The question was further asked to say, do you find the cashier or do you find the, no, we don't know who. I think earlier when I said, if you are paying each other locally, let's pay each other in local currency. That, you know, sooner or later you will find that if you have a house that you are renting, I gave you the example. If you were charging $200 US dollars for your house, let's say $100 US dollars for your room, and you knew you could go and change that money at 40 to get 4,000 ZIG, and then go to a supermarket and buy. Now, your 200 US dollars is now times, your 100 US dollars is now times 30, even on the barrel market. So you are now getting 3,000 ZIG. Surely it would make sense for you to say to your tenant, just pay me 4,000 ZIG. Because the buying power of that 4,000 ZIG has not changed. So your $200 on the barrel market has lost value. So this is why I'm saying, because the person would have just been better off saying, give me 4,000 rand, 4,000 ZIG for a room. Then de-dollarization annual targets. Honorable